What careers seem promising but are actually traps that people consistently waste their education opportunities on, either due to oversaturation or misconception. Conversely, what are some careers that are often overlooked but unexpectedly lucrative? Any video game career. I wouldn't say any specialized degree is a waste, but it's completely unnecessary. Jobs are super competitive, so breaking in out experience is hard, and there's more and more candidates every year. One company I worked for said they rejected 5,000 resumes for a position they posted. If you are talented to get a job, you're talented enough to make 2x more outside gaming. Stress, burnout, and divorce are super common. I'm a pharmacist and you are correct. The profession is grossly oversaturated right now. I graduated 3 years ago and have a job that I really love, working in a clinic. Most of my classmates who were able to find full-time work are working at a retail chain that is completely consuming their souls. 90% of what you do doesn't require the knowledge you gained in school, and all of the chains are overworking their pharmacists, cutting hours, etc. to boost profits. A lot of my classmates still haven't found full-time jobs. For those thinking of going into pharmacy, do not do it unless you know exactly what you want to do after school and have a clear path to that goal. Trap, film and TV. Constant fear of job loss. Marriages never survive. The hours are bad, stress is high, and many colleagues are unbearable self-important morons who consider themselves a very special artistic geniuses because they hung lights on Freddy Got Fingered or directed an episode of some house-flipping show. Better, public sector communications, great pay, good pension and manageable workload. A bit dull, not very creative, lots of frustrating bureaucracy and indecision, but you can find pockets of interesting people and work a few times a year. It can also be meaningful and impactful work depending where you are. Having come from the private sector, what the public sector consider crazy busy is quite light. Also, a lot of entry jobs burn through their candidates as cheap workers. Work-life balance is non-existent. Even if there is no crunch, you are still expected to stay longer. Overhours are mostly not paid or compensated as free time. You work at holidays, weekends, nights. If you lack knowledge at a certain task, then it's still your duty to look for training on your own. If you still struggle, well, your problem. Better deliver soon. At least you get good equipment so you can even work better longer. You have to do all this because of passion. I managed to survive for 3 years until I started to get heavily burned out, cut my hours and became a part-timer, still worked more than 40 hours a week. Was asked to go back to full-time, otherwise they had to let me go. I refused and lost my job. All this education wasted thanks to companies who simply pressure you to abolish Labor Protection Act. I'm extremely sour since then. I had several carpal tunnel inflammations and was asked to work with cream plus bandages to both my arms, and now I still suffer from the damage done to my body. Wrists constantly start to hurt as soon as I work. It intensifies. Very true. I was in the game industry for 8 years and shipped a few big titles. It was a difficult career, but I enjoyed it and I think I was pretty good at it. But then I started doing the math and realized that I can work less and get paid more. Plus, I had burned out a few times and I was starting to think about my mental health. So I switched industries and tripled my pay to start out with. Plus, I actually only work 40 hours a week. Best decision ever. QA is especially gross. There's a dearth of people getting suckered in by the promise of playing video games all day. Video game QA positions are considered low-skill jobs too. Third-party testing companies are horrible. They just grind people down since they know there's a revolving door of candidates available. I hear first-party is a bit better, though. QA for business software, by comparison, is actually a decent job. The reality is that being able to understand game engine parameters enough to seek bugs, isolating the variables so they can be reproduced, and subsequently writing bug reports for the devs is an incredibly specialized skill set. This attitude is pervasive in education as well. Long hours with too little pay are seen as acceptable because it's for the children. Seeking to up educator pay or set better work-life boundaries is viewed as selfish, You should get your fulfillment from knowing you're making a difference in the world, not from money. Too bad we can't buy groceries and housing with those good feelings. Working as an EMT or paramedic, the work is rewarding, but most companies are private and pay dog shit. Most of your money will be made on overtime, which is mostly forced due to understaffing. I did it for 6 years and completely burned out due to being overworked. Now getting picked up by an FD or a state, city-run EMS program is different and better in my opinion, but most people get stuck at a private company for too long. I'm gonna be the one to shoot the Reddit building trades plane down and say many trades aren't always that great. My whole family are. We're electricians and plumbers, good ones, and they usually topped out in the $50K range for a mid-sized southern town. The ones who did make bank were busy all the time. I just lost a cousin to addiction fueled by his career, an uncle who died of a heart attack at 47, a whole slew of family members with joint and muscle problems. I think the only one who's doing well financially and physically is my other uncle, who started working in the supply side and sells pipes and wires to factories. Agreed 100%. I'm a diesel technician. There's lots of money to be made if you're cool with working 50-60 plus hours a week. There's guys at my work who run their own mobile trucks who make over 100K a year. But again, these guys literally work 7 days a week, 12-16 hours a day. If you don't have anything else in your life, or if you hate your home life, sure, it's great. Trying to actually have a life outside work results in you only working 40-45 hours a week, and you're looked down upon as a lazy 8-and skater. You get overlooked for promotions because of this, no matter how accurate and timely your work is. The guy who half-asses his shit but is willing to work 60 hours a week is a model employee. So in short, don't expect to get rich working in trades. There's money to be had, but you're gonna be trading your life for it. Yeah, everyone on Reddit gets hot and bothered about trade work, and the reality is that the vast majority of people can't hack it. Not that it's super complicated, but more so that all of the things modern workers value don't exist in the trades. I'm in a union trade and this shit is flat out dangerous. If you say the words work-life balance out loud, you will get laughed off the site, and the amount of overtime would burn most people out in a year. I'm on hour 30 of the last 48 hours right now while everyone I know is enjoying their holiday weekend. The guy who fractured his skull last year is still being talked about as that pussy who doesn't know how to use the lift, and odds are that 13 years into my career I'll be on night shift for at least 3 more before I see the day side. I personally love what I do, and have built a beautiful life for myself, but a lot of people wouldn't be happy doing what I've done to get here. I work weekends, holidays, and can get stuck at work at a moment's notice. If I didn't have a loving and understanding wife, a family that values work, and a personality that doesn't mind sacrificing my social life, I'd have burned out years ago. They are good options for people who like working with their hands but don't like school and want enough money to story themselves. I come from a long line of blue-collar manual laborers, and none make annoying close to 6 figures, and all of them have serious back issues, and some are addicts. Talking pipe fitter, mechanic, roofer, welder, none of them over $60K/year, enough to own a home in most of the country, but it will never be a mansion, and that's okay. Very few people make 6 figures. The average household income is $60,000 or so, and even less in some smaller towns. I think it depends on where you are. I was making over $40K a year doing plumbing before overtime. Only an apprentice too. I was also expected to work independently on about half the jobs, projects I was assigned to. If I went union and worked another year to get my license, I could make over $100K plus generous benefits, based on a few of my friends in the trade. Granted, I live in a U.S. state with a very strong union and high bar to gain a license. I quit working in that trade last year. I could only work so many days on a large commercial buildings with no walls in February in 20-degree weather, and in the summer in 90-degree days doing new construction, getting rained on by concrete slurry on top of a 12 ladders. trying to catch concrete cores from a drill above me in a large trash barrel. Lifting water heaters and boilers out old building basements is normal. I'm in my 20s and my lower back is already giving me problems. I've watched my dad's body fall apart in his 50s. I wish my dad never pushed me into plumbing as much as he did. He owned his own business and works 60-hour weeks. I believe he hit burnout, closed down and went back to opiate addiction. I cut contact a while ago. At least I worked for a company with a fairly reasonable work-life balance. Depends on what you mean by painting houses. If you are painting private residences, then yes, you are dealing with saturation and inconsistent jobs throughout the year. You might find a lot of work during the summer and little to nothing during the winter. By contrast, if you have a good relationship with a building firm, and they land a contract to build, say, 2,000 houses, then you and your lads are set for months and months of fruitful work. You can easily distribute something like 5+ houses per guy per week and, provided they are willing to work 50 hours a week, maybe slightly more, you can make some real money. This is what I was coming here to talk about. I'm adjunct faculty and I have no job security and never get to teach the same class twice. I only get paid for in-class hours, so people like to say I make a huge hourly wage, which is true, I do. But last year one was working full-time at a grocery store on top of teaching 2 classes to make ends meet, and I keep designing courses without getting paid for the design time at all. But hey, I'm the world's leading expert in the most niche of fields possible. You have to do a PhD minimum, and consistently churn out new research materials. US perspective here. Pure teaching roles do exist, at so-called teaching colleges, rather than research universities, although they are getting more rare, for no good reason other than prestige. There's still hellishly competitive positions where hundreds of people apply for each opening. Adjuncting is absolutely a scam too. Yeah, if you're moonlighting by teaching an evening class or something it's fine, but way too many people are trying to parlay that into a real academic career. Being an adjunct has such an unjustified stigma associated with it that you're probably better served being homeless if you're really willing to put everything on the line to take that moonshot. I work at a university, and it's stunning to me how low the pay is for postdoctoral researchers. It's nearly always less than $50,000. When one looks at how much time and money goes into getting a PhD, it's insane. Executive admin assistants make more than that and usually have a bachelor's degree, at most. I realize that the pay issue for researchers is often related to grant funding, but it must be very discouraging. On the plus side, research can become wildly lucrative if everything goes right and one makes an important discovery or gets some big grants. Do that enough times and you'll even get your own research center. But it requires next-level dedication to get there. Trap, stripper, overlooked, strip club staff. I know you don't need a degree, but if I had $1 for every girl that thought stripping was it, wait. I do have $1 for every girl, cause I stayed on the staff side. You have more responsibility than dancing, but if you get some management or accounting or business training, you can move right up to management quickly. Most people running a club do not have a formal education, they're just doing what seems best, which can turn into who knows what. If you are professional, sober, not trying to sleep with the girls, and competent in the actual work, you're a unicorn. The hours are crazy and people are crazy, but the money is great, and I feel like it's so much more honest than a lot of corporate BS I sat through in vanilla jobs. A really well-run club is a beautiful thing. Also the trades, and other service work like hairdressers and house cleaners. You can make right under 6 figures if you work for yourself and can handle people well. These are both hard on the lungs though over time if you don't mask and ventilate well when working with chemicals. You can go to 4 years of college, take a $300+ exam, spend thousands on applying to and interviewing at medical schools, get accepted, go through 4 years of medical school, average student debt, $200,000, then never practice medicine or receive a physician's salary because you didn't match into a residency program. You still have to pay off all that debt though. Edit. Here's an article about how students that attended Caribbean med schools are struggling. https://www.newyorktimes.com/2021/06/Caribbean Medical School.html. Edit 2. Another NIT article on doctors not matching. https://www.newyorktimes.com/2021/02/19/health/medical school residency doctors.html. Don't be a chef. If you insist on being a chef, don't go to culinary school. It's a waste of time and nothing you learn translates into real-world kitchen knowledge. If you only plan to work in a restaurant, don't go to culinary school. The only reason you would go is connections to higher-end places. Those places usually go to people with actual professional experience though. Don't be fooled into thinking that just because it's fine dining that they'll treat you better. I've worked in fine dining and in fast casual. They both pay like shit and offer no benefits. In fact, fine dining actually pays less a lot of the time because of their stupid contracts. You're basically there for the honor of working there. Last time I worked fine dining I almost committed suicide in the walk-in. They knew and sent me home instead of calling a 5,150. Thankfully, someone was home to stop me from hurting myself. There's corporate, but it's boring as shitter and it's typically just as bad as a mom and pop. I know from experience, they have HR, but who do you go to when it's the HR person that's sexually harassing you or berating you? There's so much I hate about this industry now. The drugs, the drinking, the sexual harassment, that discrimination, the pay, the lack of benefits, the hours. Oh God. The hours. They'll either work you just under full-time so they don't have to provide benefits, or if your salary you're worked like 60 plus a week and they'll find a way to not pay you overtime. They always find a way to screw you out of your overtime, or even your lunch break. I've lost count of the amount of times I've worked through my lunch break. Oh, and you're not allowed to make your own food until after you clock out for your lunch break. You better hope there isn't a sudden rush, because your food will be used for an order. Sometimes I would get no food because of this. I'm not even going to get started on being a cook during COVID. It was horrible. It wasn't what made me quit though. What made me throw in the towel was after COVID. I was excited to go back to work, but then I saw what every restaurant was offering. No increase in pay, no increase in benefits, and worse hours and workload because of the labor shortage. I just didn't see the point. If a fucking apocalypse isn't going to change anything, then nothing will. I decided a little over a month ago that I'm done. I'm going back to school to get a real degree and a real job. Remember, for every Thomas Keller, there's 1,000 lowly line cooks destroying their bodies just to barely scrape by. Doctor, don't be a chef or a cook. It sucks. Teaching. I was told there's a high demand for teachers when I was in college, and when I finally found a job, the hiring admin told me I was going to teach a class I had zero experience schooling in. I wasn't about to decline my first real teaching job, so I said yes. At that time, my wife and I had just had our first son, so I declined the teacher induction program, basically where the district provides you a mentor to help you learn as you go. But this translates to essentially even more paperwork and essays as a first-year teacher. So I said no thank you. Fast forward to February, I get called into admin's office and I'm told they are not renewing my contract. Basically I am now fired. Though I did nothing wrong or illegal, they did not give a reason for letting me go at the time. The only silver lining was I was allowed to finish the school year and complete my initial contract. All the work, prep, refining, meetings, student follow-up, discipline issues, all of it was just gone in an instant. Huge waste of time if you don't have proper support at your school and admin lets the kids get away with all kinds of shit. That being said, I hope to hear back from a new school in about 3 days. Fingers crossed it's better than before.